Welcome everybody to Dispatches from the Battlefield with your host, Star General Northern Pride and Colonel
Steel XL.
And we
How
also
y'all doing?
And we also have Kaz.
You sure do.
Say hi, Baker.
Hello. Hello. Good to be here.
We also have Dire Wolf from CJF. Go ahead.
Yes, that's me. Hello.
And we have the leader of their group, Leeko.
Greetings. You might know me as the community manager for MechWarrior Living Legends.
And that's awesome. We love the game. It's how we formed, and we couldn't ask for better. Everything's been awesome for the last year. We are having our 1-year anniversary coming up on June 24th at 7 p.m. That will be next Friday. Deal?
Yeah, it should be a great time. We're looking to fill up a lot of servers. So if you're looking to come have some fun with us, that'd be awesome. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, and along with that, we're doing the charity. Kaz, you got any information on the charity?
I made the banner and it's awesome.
It is.
It is awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, the charity is currently up to $945. Everybody who donated, thank you very much. That is awesome. That's way more than I ever anticipated for it. Pride, why don't you say why we picked this charity?
Well, again, the charity we picked is because we noticed that in the MechWarrior Living Legends community and in a lot of other communities of gaming, there's a high percentage of people with autism or some form of autism or have even been touched by autism. And our group has been touched by it a lot. And we thought, you know what, this is the best. Can't ask for anything better than picking this organization. And the organization we've picked is... Go ahead.
OAR, Organization of Autism Research.
It's always a hard one.
Nice.
Yeah, my tongue doesn't want to say it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been going great. We're loving it. I've been trying to promote it everywhere. You, Kaz, have been promoting it everywhere. Last week we had Ballistic Kid on. He was saying he was posting it. Everybody's been doing their part. Actually, Bird Thing, Leeko, who is Bird Thing?
Bird Thing is my co-community manager. He does a lot of outreach and social media management. Yeah,
he hit me up and said, "Yeah, I'm trying to promote it, posting it too." And I thought, man, you know what? I seen him in games, and I never realized he was management of the one of the devs, or I don't know if you call it devs, but
he's part of the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And he hit me up, and I'm like, oh, that's great. I love it. All we want to do is just make a difference. And over the last year, it's been great. And this is our thing, I guess, this year. Hope it takes off. What's up next, Steel?
You mean after the charity or just in the podcast?
Oh, it don't matter. Charity, podcast, pick it.
Well, sometimes in the future, we're hoping to do another Fight Fest. We'll probably, after this is done, take a breather and then probe the community to see when that is happening. And also, we'll probably be talking about that later in the podcast as well, because we do have Dire here, and he is our organized guy. He does all that, so I'd like to talk about that.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say, Brian?
No. Building the Dragoons. We decided that we wanted to get bigger, and we opened up recruitments. And lately, we opened up the Facebook and the actual Wolf Dragoons more public, so anybody can join to be part of it. We're getting a lot of results and feedback on the web page and the Discord from general players, that do a lot of tabletop and stuff. So we're going to try and venture out to people who want to join the Discord and make a Dragoons section for people that don't play MechWarrior Living Legends or the online games. The feedback's been pretty good. You've heard about it, Steel?
Yeah. Like the other day, we were talking to Little, and he said he quite enjoyed it, despite being called a silent fart in it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're growing again. Another couple of people that were watching the Facebook jumped on and said they would like to be part of the community. We had a new guy today jump in, and we had some people who do some other podcasts get in touch with me and say, you know what, I like the Discord, and they joined the Discord. We're hoping to see them be active members. It'd be really good to have that. How do you feel about the building of the Dragoons?
Oh, it's been great. We've had a lot of people join that just are amazing people. You know, people from our last acquisition, so to speak, Cappy to our first person to get involved. Everybody's been great. On that note, Baker, I understand you were the first person that Pride talked to this about in the community.
Yeah, I was, and I thought it was a good idea. It was honestly prior to when Pride was kind of talking about trying to set up a unit. This, if I remember correctly, around about a year ago, that was kind of a bit of a low point. Maybe it had been a couple of months since a patch or something. So pubs were kind of dwindling a bit, and I honestly thought maybe that another player organization would be good to get people to join and kind of stay around, and Pride just kind of took it and ran with it, and it just, I think it's fair to say, kind of exploded in success beyond any of my expectations or anybody else's. And
it absolutely it did. It's more than I expected. I contacted you and for some information because as far as I'm concerned, you're one of the most mature young men that on the game that I totally I respect, and I like that. And so when you said, well, get a hold of Leeko, and I got a hold of Leeko, and Leeko said, make it a place. If you're going to do something, make it a place everybody wants to hang out. And I did. I tried. And then with Steel, you joining, and everybody, it just kind of went. Everybody started wanting to hang out in the Discord, and it's nice. As long as we're all polite and kind and try to keep it on a, because we never know if a young person's going to get on there. But we want to make everybody feel welcome. And I think we accomplished that. The addition of Kaz has, with his bright sense of humor, has really helped us out too. Kaz, how do you feel when you were joined the Dragoons?
I think joining the Dragoons has helped me a lot too, on a personal note.
That's good. That's really good. I'm glad we could help you, man. You got anything else? You got anything else to say?
That's the thing. Normally I'm a bit more articulate about this, but right now, no, I'm grateful. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's everybody, when you came in, the new people were like, or even the people that were there, like, oh man, I like this guy. He's always like, when you talk, you got that voice, and it just brings it out, and people, they like to hear that, and it's just it makes it a positive when you're talking. You got a nice tone, and everybody's like, oh wow, it's like the crowd lifts up and listens, eh? So
yeah, not to mention right from the start he was in a leadership position, helping out people and stuff, and it was just an easy gimme to make him an admin.
The transition, was right there. It had to be. And hopefully our other admin, I'd love to give him on our podcast if we can, Sanch. He's been a long time coming, but there were some things going on in the world that it was the step, and he took it, and he took the admin. It was great. Can't wait to get him on a podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Sanch is quite the character.
I love Sanch.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get him on with Greenleaf because they haven't been on. So
nice.
Yeah, that'll be.
That's a good idea. They'll do well off each other.
Yeah, we do have some stories about Greenleaf, that's for sure.
We alluded to that in the last podcast. So Baker, how do you like? You were there at the start. You want to say something about our like how we've come along, or
Honestly, I think I'm not always super good at talking about this sort of thing. I'm sure some of the stuff I've said has been said uh, other places, but better by other people. But I think something that sticks out to me is the thing that WD was really helpful for is there while there this is a relatively small community, all things considered. There are new people, new players joining relatively quickly, but sometimes it's a bit difficult for having them stay around. And I think I'd say WD has been a huge just boon for just retention of people, if nothing else, and there has been quite a bit else.
Well,
Having people join and have people stay around because it's more than the game. Having a community along with that, I think, is something that's been really quite helpful. I mean, I guess another thing to point out is I've only been in the Living Legends community for maybe about a year longer than WD has. I joined in around about October 2020. So I guess Dyer and Leeko have both been around quite a bit longer than that. So I was wondering if either of you maybe had some thoughts regarding this, or just kind of in general.
well,
Yeah.
just to cut in for a minute, I just wanted to say that when you guys let me into the Jade Falcon Discord, because you have friends in there too. Our Discords aren't just Jade Falcon WD. You have your own rooms for private meetings and stuff, and great. But when I was in there, I'm like, this is how I want to be. I want to be just like all the people that show up for the Jade Falcons, all the people that show up for Clan Sea Fox, or Wolverine Rebirth, if I said that right. That's what is our intention. And getting to Leeko, I listened, I watched, I look at how he said, how to set up your chats and stuff, and try to make it that way. Now, getting to Leeko, I'd like to ask, how long has the Jade Falcons been in the game?
Well, personally, I've been playing since December 2010, which I believe was patch 0.4, or maybe at the very end of patch 0.3. So I've been around for a while. But I didn't start the Jade Falcon unit until, I want to say, 2017, with the help of a small group of other individuals who were unaffiliated with any of the existing player organizations and very involved with the community. And our group has been growing slowly but steadily since then, and we've been focused on just building the community and helping out new players and trying to revitalize the competitive side of the scene.
Now, before because you've been playing since 2010, and you started in 2017. Were there factions back then? Like, what was it like?
Oh yeah, there were actually quite a bit more, because back in those days we had a big spike in population when there were some major gaming publications that gave coverage to MechWarrior Living Legends. Like, there was a pretty big feature in PC Gamer. That's actually how I found out about it. So there are quite a few active units. I'm not sure how many of them were involved in the competitive side of things or actively playing events, but they were mostly social organizations, and there were quite a few, especially on the forums.
And Dyer, how long have you been playing?
So I started playing in middle of 2018, and yeah, mostly just it's funny because I think my first time playing Living Legends was like probably around the same time Leeko was playing, like 2011. I found logs on my PC from then, like one of my old computers. But I remember that I was a kid. I only played MechWarrior 4 with a joystick, and there was really bad joystick support at the time, I think. And it was also just my computer was awful and could not run the game past more than like 10 FPS. So I was like, okay, screw this. So I played like a few matches of, I think it may have been TSA Palisades or something. And I remember buying an LRM Puma and just being like, okay, this sucks. didn't touch it, but I always kind of wanted to play it. So then, like late 2018, I was like, you know what? I just got a better computer. I'm gonna try this game again, and I just never really stopped. It was really excellent. Loved the community, and kind of just really wanted to like play more of it, understand it more deeply because there's a lot of depth to this game. So I wanted to really join an organization. Kind of, there were only like a few active then. I really loved like CJF's vibe and how welcoming it was, and I also thought that it could be like a really awesome place to like help build the community further. And I like to think that we've been relatively successful in that goal. We're still growing and we're still trying to do more.
Here, here.
Nice, very nice. On that note, how does who are the CJF and what does it take to be a CJF? Anybody can answer that.
Well, we're a player organization focused on MechWarrior Living Legends, just one of a few. And mainly we're focused on recruiting individuals who are, I'll say, a good fit for the mission and purpose of our clan. So we always look for people who are committed to participating in and growing the community. So we like to see people that are attending the events and, who play the public games frequently and come hang out with us on the voice chat. And also people who demonstrate a good moral character and high standards of behavior, because we try to behave as role models within the community. Because being a competitive game, tensions can get high from time to time. And it's important to remember that while we may banter sometimes, it's kind of a small community and we should all be friends here. And so it's very important to us to help foster a positive environment.
Well said. Well said.
Will the Clan Jade Falcons be opening up recruiting anytime, or?
We do have a few candidates in mind, but we haven't really been recruiting much recently. Partially, in fact, due to there being certain other player organizations which have expanded in size quite dramatically. Which I don't need to name names here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, we just kind of go with it, and like yourselves, we try to keep it with the Dragoons. Comms etiquette is a big one for us. Keeping it mature, keeping it, like you said, we don't want the tensions to get too high. We have discussions if things get out of hand. Everybody gets that way. We have a lot of young characters in the game, a lot of new young people. As for the Dragoons, I'd have to say pretty much most of us are above 30, I think, Steele.
The vast majority of us, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Kaz, I think you're 32, I think, over 30.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Feeling it. Okay.
No, not yet. I'm in the best shape of my life at 32.
I was at 32, I think.
Me too.
Now I'm just more shape, eh, Steele?
Yes. This is not a six-pack. It is a keg,
Mm-hmm. Dyer, your involvement in Clan Jade Falcon, when did it turn into the Dyer March?
Boy. So actually, I think it was kind of a combination of like wanting. Well, there were a few different kind of. There used to be Chaos March actually, so I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but this was I don't actually know when it stopped exactly, but it was the single most consistent set of events, even when Living Legends basically had no public population whatsoever, and when there was no active development. Duelist would run events on weekends, like clockwork. God, like how many? Like 6 years straight, 7 years straight. Leeko's been around much longer, but single life events usually. There was nominally a metagame where each battle would have some sort of significance, but unfortunately, like it would be a little bit. There'd be a lot of overhead. Let's just call it that way, and it'd be difficult a little bit to get into. So there were some other events. There's whole saga behind this, and I'm sure I won't tell it correctly, so I won't attempt to do it. But there were some other events such as Carbonels, which tried to make things a little bit simpler with the same general format of having single life events. But they were ultimately private, and I really want to make sure that there were more events that we could have that were like accessible to everybody. So I started hosting those about like 2.5 years ago. And it's been a good time, sometimes stressful, and I haven't always been able to keep them as consistent as I'd like. But overall, I try to host at least one single life event every month and 2 organized terrain control events every month.
The
So
terrain
it's not
control
really
events, I absolutely love. I love the organization of it. It's almost like a pickup men's baseball or men's hockey where you show up and there's some competition there. It's still friendly, but each team wants to win. The single life, I don't last very long. I try. I like it. It's the same thing, but the terrain, I love that feeling. The terrain control. I tried to explain to Kaz and Steele that it's not like the 3 versus 3 that we watched or whatever, but it's just the comms there's more etiquette on comms, and the team effort, even though we play team effort every day, there's something about it, and I love it. I do really like it. And like you said, being open to the public to get everybody going, I think that has drawn in a lot of people to play. Even if you don't see them all week, you see them at the Dire March, right? You see them show up. I'm sure we're going to get Steele and Kaz in there soon to give it a shot, but and the server fills up pretty good. I like it.
Oh yeah, I mean it is, barring maybe CSF's Warrior Wednesdays. If there is an organized event that I don't have other schedule commitments conflicting with, that is when I am 100% going to play Living Legends. Even if I do try to play other nights in the week as well, but I definitely try to play MechWarrior.
Yeah, the thing about the organized terrain control events is it's basically the same as a public game, except every player is on a team segregated voice chat. And so it really elevates the overall level of play. People will be able to hear your callouts in real time and react to them instantly. And it really feels like a totally different game sometimes.
And I appreciate that the using the team speak, like you said, there's a little difference where everybody's in 2 different chats. We try that a lot in the regular games as well, in the pub games, but in the Dire March or the organized, he splits us too to try and even the teams, which really helps out because then you don't have like what's the word I'm looking for?
An imbalance.
Well, what's the word they use when stack in the pub?
I've never heard that word before in my life.
No.
The team stack, yeah, and I like it. I really hope in the future maybe other factions will start up. We can keep driving this to go forward, and then we can have like almost like that men's pickup where you have a organized event where Wolf Dragoons show up with the Jade Falcons, and then the Jade Falcons will play the Clan Sea Fox, and maybe the Star Adders will come back. I hear they were one of the top ones, and then now you have the top team, well, the top players. We don't see a lot of them. Smoke Jaguar. When they show up, it's like, oh, it's Smoke Jaguar night. Everybody's got to come here. Yeah, and then everybody shows up, and it becomes a really good focus point when they're on the same team. I love it. I love the challenge. I always tell people, you know what? It doesn't matter if you lose. Nobody wants to be the winner all the time. You gotta play the best to get up to the best, and that's the fun part. I think, anyways.
Dar, do you have something to say?
Yes, a couple things. Just first, thank you, Leeko, for kind of explaining kind of what makes organized games what they are, because I neglected to mention that earlier. But yeah, really the fact that everyone on the team is aware of what's happening is what makes those so much different, I think. Because like if the entire team can react to how things are working, it just changes the dynamic a lot. Like even if you aren't a mechanically extremely skilled player, like if you haven't like spent tons of hours like learning every variant and learning exactly every weapon lead, it doesn't really matter, because as long as you're in the general place that you need to be, if you're able to contribute your armor in the right ways, or simply just like force somebody else not to be in a part of the map where they shouldn't be, or that wouldn't be advantageous for your team, you can do that. And I think like in pub games, it's a little bit harder to like have that sort of coordination. So even a few people who know like reasonably well what they're doing, even if they aren't like the most mechanically skilled, can have an outsized impact. So it's one of the things that I've always kind of been looking forward to seeing player organizations grow, like WD. It's been fantastic just to see more players who are able to coordinate that way, because it does like completely change the way that you play. If you're playing like kind of assuming everybody's acting independently, kind of thinking in their own sort of little bubbles, you can kind of figure out what they're going to do eventually, and there's just a lot of limitations to what you can do strategically. But when you have players who you know are going to be aggressively pushing certain objectives and complementing each other's strengths, you really have to think about everything differently. So, always very excited to see new organizations growing and playing together.
So that's awesome. One day we will be trying org, right, Kaz? Fair enough. Some people just want to have fun. That's okay.
Yeah. For me, what I will personally say about org TC and org single life. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I enjoy both of them, but if I could only ever play one of them again, it would definitely be org TC. Because I mean, just given my play style, anything that is quote single life unquote, I'm not going to be doing my doing the
your full W. Is that what you're trying to say?
What is that play style, Baker? Why don't you elaborate on that? Because it is a play style in itself.
I mean, honestly, I'm far from the first person or the only person to get through it. I think one of the some of the essentially this is the first mech game I ever really played. First MechWarrior game. My background prior to this was shooters. I think when I was really young, like Halo, Call of Duty stuff, and then from there, I think the shooter that I play most often is the World War I series, Tannenberg and Verdun. I haven't played those in a bit though. Mostly Living Legends is kind of taken up that place, and generally speaking, I just haven't really been trained to think of dying as a big deal. And I've been trying to get better at that, but I guess I'm just I think when I was starting out very new, I was willing to just dive the enemy team in a pulse laser Owens, not honestly just because it was fun.
Don't get better at that, dude. Never change.
Well, no, I'd want to be able to do that, but I want to be able to do it better. And I think the thing that if new players ask how to improve it, I was able to avoid kind of falling into the staying back and poking and in LERM assets kind of crap, because I like brawling, and this is a terrible, horrible, rambling answer, but
that's fine.
You know what, Baker?
Honestly, I'd be interested to see what Leeko and Dyer's opinions on this.
Baker, we were talking about this with somebody else not on our team, but they were saying, you guys rush in or somebody's always Wing in, they should wait. If everybody waits, then it's eye poking. Like you said, somebody's got to lead the charge and get in there. And honestly, like Bear said, it doesn't matter how many times you die, because some of the guys that are dying lots are leading the points. They're leading the team, and they're doing the call outs, and they're getting in. So all hats off to you, and maybe Kaz, who does kind of the same thing, all the way in. You go in, you're going to have your wingmen with you, and then you're going to start focusing. And on some maps, that's what it is. And like you said, Leeko, how do you feel like that?
Well, it's important to develop a sense of when to push in versus when to wait for your team. But that is a common trap that a lot of new players will tend to fall into, is using extreme range weapons, particularly long range missiles and other similar weapons that are guided, and some of the more long range weapons in the game, just because they're safer. And a lot of new players will stick with that as an alternative to developing some more defensive skills that are required to survive short-range engagements, like mitigating damage by torso twisting and managing your sight lines, managing enemy player threat levels, things like that. So
as soon as someone charges into you and you're doing that, you get it. You're like, oh.
Yep. So I'd rather have a Baker Bowman on my team than someone who's going to hide 1,000 meters behind me.
Absolutely.
And you
Actually,
hear it. You hear it. You hear it in all the games, like when you're in your own voice channel, and the guy's like, "Okay, I'm going in," and then you're maybe you're not with that guy, but then you hear him after. How come nobody followed me in? I got left alone, and they just took down your biggest asset that we had because nobody followed. And you got to have that wingman and the voice, like Dyer said, right? When you're in voice, it makes it easier. You can't be reading everything off to the side. Well, I can't, but I mean, wingmen are the thing, and to organize or know when to go. I may not know when to go, but when Dyer says go, and Leeko says go, and Kaz says go, well, we're all gonna go, because if nobody goes with you, too many people hang back, they're gonna eat you alive, right?
Not to mention,
whistle and start screaming, baby.
not to mention, there's an easy counter for lerms, right? LMAS, and so if you see a lot of like swarms of lerms, just grab a LMAS asset and push them, and it'll be a nice brawl.
So playing aggressive lets you kind of opens you up a lot more to learning about mechanics of the game. I think torso twisting, where to put your damage more efficiently, that sort of thing. And also it kind of, by playing aggressively, you tend to be in cap zones a lot more. So you figure out a lot more about game sense, like when is it worth pushing? When is it worth sacrificing your armor so you can go capture a point and then move the ultimate ticket bleed in your direction. I think generally just playing more aggressively that way, you learn a lot more and opens up a lot more playstyles for you. You kind of realize when you should be playing more aggressively and when you have to be playing more conservatively. You figure out when to manipulate aggression. Like, when do you want the enemy team to look at you? When do you want people to try, instead of shooting somebody else in your team who maybe does more damage than you, and you want them to be able to stay alive as long as possible. Just by throwing yourself in situations over and over again, pretty much, you start to figure out what types of things kill me the fastest, what areas should I be avoiding on certain maps, all that sort of thing. So absolutely worth just dying a million times if it means you learn those things along the way, and usually you do. Just comes with time.
Yeah, I'm never going to stop doing it, but I just want to do it better and better,
Oh yeah, and you do. I think I forgot who said this first. I think it may have been Leeko that says that you're like a revenant, where if you want to kill someone, you are very good at doing it. And I think I've also said this before, that whenever you're on the field, I have to change my playstyle very very significantly, because I always like to try and make people look at me. I try to keep my, if I have low health or something, I'll keep sticking around, because I know that somebody is oh, Dyer's low, I'm going to try shooting at him, which means they may expose themselves so my teammates can shoot them.
Whereas I'm like, oh, low, Dyer's low, I'm going to chase him across half the map and get killed by base defenses.
So no, you kill me a lot more than most other people do. I think if I had to tally up the number of people that have the number of times I've been killed by certain players, you were almost for sure on the top 3, despite having played the game for considerably less than some of the other people who are up there. So it's good, and it also prevents I kind of want to go into a tangent about my theory of how Living Legends players fall into categories. I think you've heard this, Leeko's heard this, but I don't want to derail it too much. But you're very good at shutting down people whose kind of job is, or their play style is I'm gonna stay alive for a long time, and I'm gonna get into something really big or really influential on the battlefield, and then once they're there, they can just kind of continue projecting force, make other people scared of them. You're a hard counter to that, because you just don't let people do it. You just kill them before they can farm. It's amazing.
Yeah, or I end up being the thing that they farm.
That's true too.
Not so often though. If you have someone with you, that's all you need. So,
well, yeah, I have to admit, when we see Baker on the other team and we're in the Wolf Dragoons Discord, it's who's going after Baker?
I do like diving
you
Baker,
don't need to
because
go after me. I'm coming to you.
Yeah, exactly. I do like diving Baker because you're going to have a good brawl, and most of the time I lose, but maybe 1 out of 100, maybe I'll win.
I'd say it is, honestly, don't sell yourself short. I'd say I tend to have the advantage more just due to my choices and asset tend to favor brawls when you're in an equally brawly asset, I'd say you do actually relatively quite decent for yourself.
Oh yeah, it's just that little bit more experience. I'm really bad at torso twisting, so. So you mentioned assets. Is there a favorite asset that you have, Baker?
Well, just, I mean, yeah, I do. Yes, I think that's pretty fair. My favorite particular variant is the Hellhound Alpha, and I think that's not going to be a surprise to anyone who has interacted with me at any point ever, really. But to be perfectly honest, there are a lot of other assets I enjoy as well. I think the Ares Golf is a great one. Honestly, one that I've really been getting onto relatively recently. Kill or die in the process.
It's excellent. That's a good pick. Chimera Bravo.
Yeah. And generally speaking, I like assets that have, maybe, I don't know if assets that I can brawl in. Yeah. That also tend to have a bit of flexibility to them with other stuff. Having stuff that has electronics or jump jets or something to that effect is always a plus. And I don't always brawl. One of the other things I enjoy doing is the Rifleman Delta, I think, is generally speaking, when I upgrade out of a Hellhound A, or side grade, I guess, out of a Hellhound A, the 9 times out of 10, it is to a Rifleman Delta, which is 4 Rack 2s and Angel. So I don't know. I can't really explain myself much better than that, I guess.
No, that was perfect. How about you, Dar? What's your favorite mech in the game?
Despite Baker being I think the first to complete the 6 stats challenge of buying every asset in a pub game.
First in CJF, not the first. I think Batuta and Buff Skeleton did it. Not Batuta, but Buff Skeleton did it first, definitely.
Okay.
Might have been Batuta
for a second or third. But yeah, high up there anyway. I play too many assets in pub games, but I think probably the simplest, if I had to choose like 2, probably the Shadowcat Prime, because it just does everything. It's relevant at every point in the game. Extremely mobile, tons of damage. You can live forever if you manage to manipulate aggro well enough and you use jump jets well. Then the other is probably like the Thor Alpha, which is a weird pick. There's like 3 people who buy it, but it's just excellent. Extremely good at medium range, tanky, has some good screen shake. Very mobile, has tools for everything. It's great. But basically anything with improved jump jets, IJJ, is just like excellent. And you'll probably, like, whenever I'm trying way too hard, probably it's when I'm going to be driving one of those things. So Sunders, Thors, Shadowcats, that sort of thing.
Nice. Those are good picks. Leeko, your 2 favorite picks for mechs?
That's pretty easy for me. My first favorite is the Kit Fox Prime. It's my favorite starting mech. It has a tool for every situation and matchup, and really the only downside is that it's slower than most of the other starters, which can be occasionally problematic if you get left behind or caught out, and there are faster enemies that are going to chase you down, and you don't really have the support required to survive. However, I have always insisted that it's capable of beating any other starter in a evenly matched 1v1, and I just enjoy having a bunch of different weapons. And my other favorite is the Summoner Delta, which is the LB20 heavy medium laser and heavy or high explosive ATM summoner, which like all the others, has improved jump jets and a decent amount of armor. But its loadout is just so punchy at short range. You can really make the most out of its jumping capabilities to do quick hit and run attacks, pop around corners, that sort of thing. On some maps, like basically the city maps that have lots of alleyways and cover and stuff, there will be times where I basically don't upgrade out of that, even though it's only 70 tons and I could go much heavier.
Or Delta is the Zout Goat.
It is.
True.
So,
just
go
out
ahead,
of curiosity, I gotta ask this because we got 3 good players on here. How does how do you guys feel about the new I don't know how to say it, the VTOLs, how they changed?
I don't have much to say on these because I literally just played them today. What I will say, personally, is it seemed very manageable to me, but I can also see why some of the people who were very heavily into VTOLs prior to this, I can understand why they might not be super fond of it, because it did seem to be the flight model seemed to be a lot simpler than the older one, which I can, for a game which has so much potential for system mastery as Living Legends, I can understand why any kind of simplification like that might upset somebody.
Now, how about the opposite end? How about fighting those modules? I notice now I almost see more diverse people flying them than the same people that used to fly them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is a lot of the older VTOL players are not thrilled about it because it's been simplified a lot, but it's really that was kind of the intention. Its two main design goals were, one, to simplify the back end of the code and make it possible for us to implement the heavy VTOLs, because it was going to have to be basically redone from scratch anyway, which gave us an opportunity to redesign it. Two, to nerf certain playstyles that were considered to be unfun, which basically involves a VTOL sitting in a ground target's blind spot where it can't return fire. And three, to make the control scheme basically just, like I said, simpler and more accessible to average skill level players, and especially new players who, honestly, there's a lot to learn in this game.
Yeah, I found I tried VTOLs before, and I liked the old control the way it was, and I liked the new control, which I find it a little harder. The old control, though, you could almost, for something that's supposed to have props like a helicopter, you could, when you top down, you never fell, you never lost altitude. Like a helicopter, you never see them in real life do that, and that's CryEngine physics, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so I mean, when is the implementation you think coming for those heavy VTOLs? Tomorrow?
Well, it's going to be quite a while. Where they've been kind of on the back burner for a long time because there's some things that need to happen in the code before we could work on them. But one of the major things that need to happen is out of the way now with the new flight model in place, because we can just work off of that. But and again, it's hard to estimate because volunteer project, super low skeleton crew staffing levels, especially with people moving over to Living Legends 2. But I would say probably around the fall or perhaps by the end of the year.
Well, it has been very exciting, the whole Living Legends for me, just finding it out. And I know years went by where my son Kaze kept saying, "Dad, you got to come and try this. You got to come and try this." Then finally, I sat down and I was bored of all the stuff I was doing at home and thought, I'll just give it a shot. And I loved it. And I'm a team player. I love being part of a team and helping out and doing my little thing, almost like a logistics type of thing, until I got a little better. But it just feels good. The game feels good. And like you mentioned, with Living Legends 2 in the back burner working right now, like you guys are all working on it. It's been an amazing job by the people that are still keeping up with the Living Legends, the first one.
Yeah, we're keeping the lights on. There are a few things that, we sadly haven't been able to realize yet, like the notorious battle armor update that has been prioritized and then canceled several times due to lack of flash code support, basically, among other problems. But, we're still chugging along, adding content as we can.
Still the best free game out there, in my opinion. It brings a good population together as a team.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a common joke that people will say when new people are joining. Welcome, you're here forever. Honestly, it did not take very long at all before I was just hooked. And I think there was a guy on today for Organized. He said, "Oh, I just played for a couple hours and I'm hooked." And that's just the way it is. There's just something about this you can't really get anywhere else. And I think it's not to get into too much, but I feel like it's a sign of a game being made by people who give a damn, essentially. And there's so many other games out there that they just don't. It is this is a labor of love. It's not always happy, harmonious love, but it is love nonetheless.
You hear Zorg come on, and he loves the game, and he's playing. All of a sudden, he crashes. I effing hate this game so much. I love to hate this game. And then he has to reboot, and he's like cursing to himself. And I'm like, it's a good game. And he goes, yes, but it crashed. And he's like, he's got to get back in it. He loves it so much.
It hurts so good.
Yeah. It's so awesome. Speaking of which, any good gains there, Leeko, on the Living Legends 2 part?
Nothing I can share at the moment that we haven't already shared in public, but if you take a glance at the Living Legends 2 community Discord, you can see one of our concept artists just finished up a final concept of an aerospace fighter, the Stingray, which you can go ahead and take a peek at.
Can't wait. Everybody's loving it. And one of the big things when I'm on Facebook and stuff and I'm promoting Living Legends, and they're like, well, it's based off this. I said, it doesn't matter. I think one of the biggest things that once you play it, like Baker said, once you play it for 2 hours and you're hooked, the hospitality of the people, everybody's willing to help. There's no Gretzky on the team. It's everybody is, on the team, and everybody's willing to help. Try this button. As soon as somebody asks a question, bam, they're in there, right away. How do I sell my mech? How do I get in my mech? And I think that's one of the biggest things that draws you in.
That is kind of the thing. I mean, if we don't keep this game alive, no one else will. And we not just specifically with CJF, but WD as well, and all the other player organizations, or even just independent players who are interested in keeping this very unique and wonderful game alive.
Yeah, it certainly is a great game, and the devs put quite a lot into it, and updates are coming, like you said, as fast as they can, and it's been great.
Actually, I like the Steel. I like the fact that this game once in a while throws a mech out and brings a mech in, like not a mech, but a variation.
Oh yeah, they're always redefining the mechs. Like we were talking about the Atlas with Mask in the last one.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest differences between MechWarrior, Living Legends, and other similar titles, is there's no player customization of your weapons and equipment. However, the developers curate hundreds of unique variants. So one mech will have 4 or 6 or 8 different loadouts, which are nearly all competitively viable and pretty much all see regular use, except for some of the stranger aircraft variants are a little redundant occasionally. But it's really remarkable if you compare it to, for example, MechWarrior Online. If you look at competitive tier lists, or if you look at how many restrictions they have to place on the Solaris game mode, I think the difference between having customization versus having stock variants is very telling.
Yeah, we always say this difference between MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior Living Legends. The game's not won in the hangar, right? That to be honest, it's like watching a NASCAR race, and everybody shows up with the same car. There's no winning in the garage. There's no pay to get bigger, I guess. You get what everybody else gets and bring it on.
Who's responsible for naming that Shrek All-Star?
Pretty sure everyone on the dev team wanted there to be at least one Shrek with that name, but I cannot recall who said it first.
I'm just going to assume it was Invictus's initiative.
Probably. If a name does not get in without his approval, and the vast majority of them are ones that he made up himself.
And I just have to say, we haven't said his name very much, and he's the major dev right now, Invictus?
Invictus has been the driving force of the community development project for MechWarrior Living Legends since its inception, which I don't know if you've mentioned this at all on the podcast so far, but there's basically a dead period where a weekend event called Chaos March was the only MechWarrior Living Legends that could be played, because after the original development team, Wandering Samurai Studios, announced the cessation of development because they were moving on to, individual careers in the games industry, working for, real developers like Crytek and Robert Space Industries.
Ouch.
The players pretty much picked up and left. Also because MechWarrior Online was coming around at that time, and people were checking that out too. But Invictus and a couple other people were basically solely responsible for restarting development and, bashing their heads against the cracked source code that they acquired for, I think he said literally just 12 to 18 months, basically, of, researching the hard way, poking things and breaking them, and, slowly figuring out how to make additions and changes to the game.
You know what? We're going to have him on a podcast if he wants to, because to hear his side of all this would be awesome. Because he's doing, I think he's doing a great job, and especially you always hear, I wish this guy would do this, wish this guy, but in the long run, he's done a great job. I think
absolutely.
It's.
Pride. I kind of feel this is a good point to wind her down. We've been talking for an hour or so?
Almost, yeah. We're wrapping her up.
Does any of our CJF fans, guests have anything to say before we wrap her up?
Just thanks for inviting us on your show here. It's been a pleasure.
Yes,
no
absolutely.
Problem.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's just been a pleasure to be kind of a fly on the wall watching WD grow. I think it's been.
Well, we're hoping maybe with Dyer's help, maybe we can get a organized event of the Wolf Dragoons and the CJF. Have an event going where it's
that'd be very interesting.
Split
so
up.
What you're saying is you want to bechal them?
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, I think that. yeah. We'll make a list up of who's going to show up that day, and I know that we've grown significantly, but I mean we could allow the CJF to maybe bring in a smaller clan with them if they had to, Like
this might have been a bit before WD's time, or just at the start of it. There was a CJF and Seafox versus the World, and
boy,
the World brought Invictus, so that went about as well as you can expect it did for CJF.
Yeah, we brought in all the biggest guns and got crushed.
Oh, really? So when Invictus showed up, who did they bring? They brought
it was literally everybody else in the community. I mean, we're talking Clan Smoke Jaguar, people like Euphos, Buff Skeleton, Blood Raven, all the community regulars.
Was Carb still in for that or no?
No,
I don't think so.
But it was fun.
But that's what makes it fun, right? You get to pull together as your team, and like I said, Friday nights when Smoke Jaguar shows up, it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. Even if we lose, it's like this is awesome because the big guns are showing, and nothing better than beating the big guns, right? And I'm not saying that Clan Jade Falcon is not big guns, because you guys, when we were starting off as Dragoons and doing our practices, and Dyer and yourself, and giving us advice on how to play or how to communicate or how to look at the thing, really helped us to grow as a team, and just so people don't sorry, I'm saying that wrong, just so people who've never played, if they listen to this podcast, it's a pub game, everybody joins whatever, but it feels so cool when you're on your team with your buddies, whether they're great or not great, or good pilots or not good pilots. It just feels good, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think we'll have to see what is ahead. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to having CJF and WD versus the World, or some permutation of that, or
that would be pretty good. Or even put the feeler out there for the big guys to show up against CJS and WDs. Come on, Invictus.
Yeah.
Well, if Invictus shows up, we'll make sure that we have little Anzorg that day.
Oh, the silent fart. Yes.
That's kind of weird because
silent fart.
Zorg is a fire god, so there's explosive potential there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to
Burn
see if
down
we
your
can brew
outhouse,
up
baby.
an explosive competition.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
But
Well,
I
thank
think we're
you
trying to-
guys.
I
You
think
know
we're
what?
trying to wrap here. I just want to congratulate you guys on an awesome year. You guys have been pretty much the fastest growing and most successful recruiting unit that I've ever seen. And we're super glad that you've stuck around with us and you've become a real pillar of the community. And you're doing great work all the time. So
Thank you.
Absolutely.
we love
Cheers,
having
dude.
you around, and we're happy to participate with you together in your podcast and in events. So thank you again for hosting and bringing us on.
Thank you for showing up, Leeko, Direwolf, and Baker Bowman.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, and we're hoping to see you on the battlefield and full W ahead. Thanks for
You
coming.
know it. Good to have us.
And remember, never fight alone.